2005, the band The String Beans got in a recording booth and they asked the age-old question, what's here in Nebraska? The Nebraska State Historical Society Foundation is helping to answer that question with their new program called WanderNebraska Adventures, which provides tours of important cultural and historical sites across the state. Coming up, they have the Wild West Frontier Tour that is running from June 9th through the 13th. The registration deadline for which is Friday, that can't be a Friday. May 5th is the date, but it's not a Friday. I know that because next week is May 2nd. And the Gateway to the Good Life Tour, which will run from August 20th through the 21st. My guest today is tour leader and professor emeritus at Peru State, Dr. Sara Crook. Sara, welcome to Friday Live.
Thank you, Genevieve. Nice to be here.
It is great to have you. So I think let's just start with what is WanderNebraska and when did it get started?
So 4 years ago, the State Historical Society Foundation did start this program to help promote historical sites throughout the state. And this year, their program now has 213 sites, and they've broken it into different regions of the state, which helps, and hence comes the terms or the names for our adventure tours. So the WanderNebraska Adventure Tour started last year. It's kind of my retirement gig, having taught Nebraska history for many, many years at Peru State College. I wanted to do something to encourage people to go see these historic sites and then weave that together with helping to go to places in Nebraska that were Nebraska entrepreneurs, so wineries, breweries, small businesses, etc., along that line. So we've kind of done historical sites, and then we try to eat at local places to eat, local non-chain restaurants, I guess you could say, that are Nebraska-born.
So for Wild West Frontier, I have a list here of the full itinerary that you've brought with you. And as you mentioned, there's, eateries and places, but some of the historic sites include things like Ash Hollow or the Scottsbluff National Monument. How do you go about curating those sites for each tour?
Well, many of the sites I've been to myself, and every once in a while I'll throw in one that I haven't been to but that I want to go to. So I just get out a map of Nebraska and start looking at, okay, how far from one spot to another. But a lot of these sites are just they're historic sites that I think oftentimes Nebraska gets overlooked, the old flyover state, or the quote that you gave at the beginning of this interview. And just want to highlight that there is so much history out there in Nebraska that we need to tell. So, just finding places that I know I've been to and I have found interesting. And so therefore I want to take others there as well.
So with those different dates coming up, how about we tell listeners about the difference between the two tours? We've got the Wild West Frontier, but then also the Good Life Tour. What are the different spots between the two?
Okay, so the Wild West Frontier, we're going to actually, we always start with it. Again, it's a chartered bus tour. We'll start in Lincoln, and then we're literally just going to go down I-80 and allow people to join as we go along. So you don't have to live in Lincoln to go on this tour, because we can pick you up along the way. And so then we just get to North Platte. So we'll leave in the afternoon, get to North Platte, have a welcome time, get to know each other, etc. And then we'll take off the next day on a Tuesday and hit all these various sites like Ash Hollow, eat at the most unlikely place in Llewellyn. A lot of people probably haven't been there. And then on to Scottsbluff, several different places in Scottsbluff, the Legacy of the Plains Museum, as well as Scottsbluff Monument, and then the Papa Moon Vineyard and Brewery there in Scottsbluff. And then we'll go into Fort Robb and stay overnight at Fort Robb. And we have the whole hotel booked for 2 nights at Fort Robb. And we'll do some Fort Robb historic sites. We'll also go into Chadron to see the Museum of the Fur Trade and the Maury Sandos Center. And then back to Fort Robb for the steak fry. That's always fun if you haven't ever been on that. I've been on that multiple times, and it's one of my favorite things to do, where we go up into the bluffs on a hayrack. So there you go. And then the next day we'll stay overnight. The next day we'll get back on the bus and head back and do Chimney Rock. Chimney Rock, and also into Oshkosh for the only water tower that's on the National Register of Historic Places in Nebraska. And then back on into Ole's Bar for supper, of course, that night, and then North Platte. and then back to Lincoln the next morning. So that's kind of, the Wild West, the Panhandle area.
Dropping people off as you come back to
as
the
we
east,
come
I
back,
suppose.
Yes. So again, if you live in Aurora or Grand Island, we'll pick you up on the way. So that'll be kind of fun. And then the other tour, which is in August, 20th and 21st, we're going to kind of do southeast Nebraska. So we'll leave from Lincoln, go down to Rock Creek Station at Fairbury, lunch in Beatrice, the Johnson County Historical Society, which is a great little local museum in Tecumseh. And then Falls City has a couple great sites. We'll end up there in the evening for their library and art gallery, and then the John Falter Museum, which is awesome. And then stay overnight at the Grand Weaver Hotel, which has been redone in downtown Falls City. And then the next day is Indian Cave State Park, lots of museums in Brownville, lunch at the Lyceum if you haven't ever eaten there. I'm known for making sure that we eat well on the tour. So I love to find these places that have great food. And then we'll end up in Nebraska City at the Craigle Windmill Museum, which is going to be inducted tomorrow, because this is Arbor Day today, and Arbor Day weekend in Nebraska City as a National Historic Site.
Oh,
so
that's incredible.
Awesome. And then our final stop is the Lewis and Clark Center, where we'll have supper catered by the local Whispering Pines, which is a bed and breakfast in Nebraska City, and then back in. So that's just a quick little 2-day tour. But the cost that we wrap this all in is all inclusive. So it's all your admissions, it's your lodging, it's your tips and gratuities. It just, so you can get on the bus and just have a good time.
That Windmill Museum is a perfect lead into my last question for you, because it's frozen in time. Mm-hmm. It's something that you really, really just can't see anywhere else. I can't imagine trying to wonder, how did somebody do this work back in the day? And it just was frozen then, and you still get to see it today in 2025. Why is it important, Sarah, for Nebraskans to visit these cultural landmarks and learn about their state?
Well, I think it gives us a good grounding. It helps us understand those who have gone before us, which is what character is built from. I've often said as a native Nebraskan that having grown up here and lived here almost my entire life, I had a 2-year stint out of state, but it shapes our character, and knowing what these people have done and what they've created and the lifestyle that they've lived in the past helps us understand where we're going in the future. And I think that's just our history. It sets our values. It sets our moral compass. And so I think that's real important that we have a sense of that as we go forward in the 21st century.
Wander Nebraska Adventures is giving Nebraskans a chance to learn more about the history of their state with 2 upcoming tours: the Wild West Frontier Tour running June 9th through the 13th, and the Gateway to the Good Life Tour running August 20th to 21st. Dr. Sara Crook is a Nebraska history expert leading these tours. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your time to talk to me today. Thank you.
And if you want to learn more about these tours, go to the Friday Live page. As always, that is at nebraskapublicmedia.org.